So, Thomas Sullivan, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Bob.
Ladies and gentlemen, Thomas Sullivan, he is a sales executive, one of my good friends, known him for quite some time, and genuinely honored to have him on the podcast as he has a realm of information in regards to things like business, life, politics, somebody that I truly consider to be someone you can have a genuine conversation with and somebody that you could also learn something from. So again, Tom, how have you been? What's been going on, man? Give me a little debriefing on what you've been up to lately.
Yeah, first and foremost, Bob, just really grateful to be here. Thanks so much for the invitation to come on and speak with you. Big fan of what you've been doing. Listen regularly to your podcast. I think you're doing a great job. And thanks again for having me. Looking forward to our conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so in terms of what I've been up to is just working, to be honest with you. That's the best way to sum it up. Just not staying stagnant. You know, obviously, you and I are in the same, what's the word I'm looking for?
Corporate America.
Yeah, you know how it is. We're in the same,
Yep.
It's not the same industry, but we're working bees, man. We always stay busy. So that's the best way I could sum it. Life is good. The family's good. But to summarize, just working.
Sales executive, living in Phoenix, Arizona. Talk to me about that, man. How's it been living in Phoenix, Arizona? I had the pleasure of living there for a year, and I thought it was a great experience, man. What has it been like for you out there?
Yeah, Phoenix has been phenomenal. I think I've been out here about 8 years now. Love it. The weather's fantastic, similar to the Northeast winters. Our summers are just similar like that, except for it's just extreme heat instead of the cold. So when summertime comes a knocking, you find yourself a pool, find yourself a nice cold beverage, get some AC, throw on a movie, and just relax. But Arizona, in terms of just the market and how the economy is booming, it's fantastic. I think we're still one of the fastest growing cities in America.
All that, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just a good time to be an Arizonian.
Absolutely. And Tom, sales executive, that's big business. That's big responsibilities. I think when you're relating to me and the things that I do here at Amazon as a operations manager, now senior manager with Amazon, it's the level of commitment. It's a level of responsibility to the day in and day out tasks. It's a minimum 5 days a week I'm working, but on the weekends I'm on call as well too. Constantly thinking, constantly being proactive, constantly preparing my next move, constantly preparing plans. In the business world, you've done very well in sales. It wasn't necessarily something you thought about in high school or college. You weren't leveraging your time before your career to get ready to go into sales, but you got in there and you overachieved expectations in sales. Talk to me about your success in sales, man. Where did this come from? How did you get into this kind of industry and see this type of success in sales?
Yeah, I think my success in sales has just come from this innate desire to always get better. I've always had this philosophy of just be at where your feet are at, get 1% better every day. Was very passionate about sports in my community growing up, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do post high school, post college, but just kind of listened to my mentors and just been very fortunate throughout my life that I've had good mentors. People led me to a career that I never would have thought to get into. And they showed me the way to be successful. Success leaves clues. And I've just been fortunate enough to have mentors who have shared wisdom with me, educated me on what to watch for, what to be cognizant of, in my 20s and throughout my 30s. And yeah, I would just summarize it. It just all stems from having great leadership and just being fortunate enough to kind of follow in the footsteps and, walk through the doors that they've opened for me.
And if you had to share with people one tip of success that was most important to you or most relevant to you in your sales career thus far, what would that one tip be?
One tip would be, it sounds simple, but get up early and have a routine. I think if you were to take one thing away from my success, it's just being aware that those who have a routine have the competitive advantage in so many aspects, not just in your personal life, but in your professional life. Getting up early, establishing a routine, aligning it with your goals, and surrounding yourself with around people that have good habits and learn those good habits. So I would say that's what sums it up: is just get up early, have a routine, and have mentors.
I always look for mentors, man. I think coming into Amazon, I found a mentor initially who I learned a lot from in 2015 in Reno, Nevada. He happened to be like 4 or 5 years younger than me, and was seeing tremendous success in Amazon. In Amazon, you measure the operation, how well are you treating your customers, how satisfied are your customers, what does your quality look like, what is your productivity like, the list goes on how you measure your success in Amazon. And I saw this gentleman taking off, and I watched and I observed a lot of what he did, and I asked him a lot of questions. And then over the last 7 years, have connected with a lot of other different mentors, some in Amazon, some outside of Amazon. Who's been one of the most impactful mentors to you thus far in your life, or sales career thus far?
It's a great question. The first person that comes to mind is an individual named Robert O'Neill. He was the managing director for a company called Active International out of Pearl River, New York. And just being able to kind of watch how he carried himself, how he was the first one in the office, last one out, the way he communicated with his staff, the way that every little behavior and every little action that he did was very intentional. So I would say early on, getting to watch him and mimic from him was probably the best mentor that I've had in my professional career.
I forgot about Active International, man. I forgot you spent time there. How long were you with them for?
Just a little under a year. I think it was about 11 months, and loved it. Loved every minute of it.
Absolutely. And that was in Rockland, New York, right?
Yeah. There we go.
I thought so. Tom, you're a gentleman that is very, very knowledgeable and has taken involvement in politics. What is the state of American politics right now to you?
The state of American politics to me. I think to sum it up, I think it would be it's just sad. Sad is the word that comes to mind. I think
Yes, man, it's true.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many ways that you can dissect that conversation, and it's one of those things where if you just look around, whether it's urban life, suburban life, north, south, east, west, there's one thing that is at the heart of everything, and it's just the lack of stability. The way in which we've communicated ideas with one another has just been sad. It's not behavior that's going to be conducive to achieving the outcomes that we want. And yeah, that's the way I'd sum it up. It's a sad state of affairs for the good old USA right now.
It is, man. And one of the focus points that I've seen over the last probably I'd say 2 years from the Democratic Party is a big focus on environment. And I think you and me were talking about a month or two ago and got pretty in depth into why there needs to be more focus on the environment, man. What's your thoughts about the Democratic focus on the environment, man, and why is that important right there?
Yeah, I think the environment, the focus on the environment is it's such a complicated topic, right? Because everything that we do in a society has a cause and effect. So think of something like the K-cups. The guy reinvented how coffee is going to be brewed and prepared, a staple in American culture and for millions of Americans across, the United States. Great idea. Produced jobs, made a lot of money, but was an environmental catastrophe. And I forget the owner's name, but I think he even came out and said like it was the worst thing that he ever could do. You think of where we're at in terms of just the last 30 years, what we've lived through with Hurricane Sandy, Hurricane Katrina, these wildfires that are happening, these droughts that are happening. It's one of those things where how can we have an economy that works coincides with, environmental replenishment? And as far as what the Democrats are doing, I don't think they have a unified message. So when you have a fractured message, it's hard to get across to the people the ideas that you have and that what you're trying to communicate, what the end goal is, because, you're talking about reducing carbon emissions. Okay, what does that mean? You're talking about the gas and oil industry. It's like, what about the methane that's coming from the agricultural industry? Are you going to change, the way in which we travel? Are we going to ban airplanes? Like, there's a lot of bold ideas, but ideas without a plan are kind of just dreams. And we don't need dreams in a time where the climate is changing so drastically and so rapidly. What we need is common sense solutions that will coincide with the economy, because whether we like it or not, we have a petroleum-based economy and we have a global market, and there's cargo ships, there's airplanes, there's cheap labor that's encompassing of all this logistical, what's the word I'm looking for? It's really like you marvel at the logistics that we have to get things from continent to continent in 3 days, sometimes even less. So to sum it up, what the Democrats are doing, I don't think it's bold enough. I don't think it aligns with the end game.
What you're speaking about is only speeding up. When you're talking about 3-day logistics to get it around the world, it's not like that's going to slow down and it's going to switch back and go to 5-day logistics. Like, it's just getting.
No, I mean, think about it. We now have Amazon Prime. You want things in 2 days. The market is going to demand a faster, efficient shipping process, which is going to result in more logistical framework that's going to go into other countries, which means deforestation. Again, still using these petroleum-based products. So everything.
Deforestation.
Yeah, we've set ourselves up for disaster, because as the stock market goes and as economies continue to expand and populations boom and economies grow, do we have the resources to kind of backfill to sustain the way of life that we've all grown accustomed to? And I think we've just put ourselves on a collision course where you want to grow the economy, but there's only so many trees you can replant. There's only so much fresh water that you could have. There's only so much garbage you can put into the ocean before the microplastics get into our foods. So we've honestly set ourselves up for a rude awakening here in the near future.
Tom, Russia, big talk right now. Coverage on all news stations, 24/7, constant reporting. Big invasion, Ukraine, eastern side of the country, getting hit hard, man. What's been your thoughts on what's going on in Russia and the invasion going into Ukraine?
I mean, the way that I see it is it's almost like we're watching everything that we've learned about World War II and the previous world wars. What I think Russia is doing is, let me explain it this way, right? Rivalries: Boston Celtics, Lakers, longtime rival. Boston Red Sox, New York Yankees, longtime rival. United States, Russia, longtime rival.
Yeah.
Russia, Europe, longtime rival.
Mm-hmm.
When you look back at the Cold War, I don't think it ever ended. I don't think we took Russia serious as an adversary over the last 30 years. And I think in terms of what Russia's doing now, they did a preemptive strike on Ukraine, and they did it because they can do it, because they are a nuclear power. And when you have nukes and you have the size of the military and the strength and the might of the military that the Russians have, and then the strategic alliance that they have with, China, it's one of those things where I think Putin realized that NATO is weak, and wanted to make sure that he let Europe know and the United States know that your economies thrive or shrink based off of Russian oil, and you're going to start giving this country and me the respect on a global stage that I demand. And there's not a damn thing you could do about it, because we got in bed with our rivals, and we now want our rivals to play on our playing field within our parameters and our guidelines. And they've let us know from the beginning of time that they don't want a democracy. They don't want a global economy. They don't want to have capitalism. They don't want that. So we kind of overplayed our hand again, where we let Russia get entangled into our global economy, and they were able to build up their reserves and build up their military. And he wants to establish the borders of the old Russian Empire. So he's doing it.
He's got big pipelines that run into Europe, man.
Money rules the world. And as last time I checked, we have a petroleum-based economy, and they're a big producer of oil.
Tom, our response, our government's response, our political response to the Russia situation thus far, has it been the right one? What have your thoughts been thus far?
Honestly, it's hard to critique a situation that doesn't have a desirable or winnable outcome. And what I mean by that is, what's the worst thing that could happen in a war with Russia? A nuclear fallout. What's the best thing that could happen with Russia? We stop the bloodshed of millions of innocents, and we let a very fragile democracy go at it another time to see if they could stay, a free society. So it's either outcomes are going to have mass casualties. And as far as what the Biden administration can do, there's not much we can do, because they have a nuclear weapon. So it's like you're playing chicken right now with a madman. Do you send military might to Russia where he could drop a dirty bomb, or he could drop a cyber bomb into America, or knock out our satellites, or do anything that could disrupt the way of life for Americans? So what I see is going to end up happening is eventually this war will escalate either through a humanitarian crisis where we can't turn a blind eye anymore, or these nuclear reactors that are getting attacked, they're going to do so much harm to Europe that Europe's going to have to invade Russia to try to throw out the Russian regime to stop the nuclear fallout. But either way, to be honest with you, Bob, I hate to be a doom and gloom guy, but I don't see this ending well for anybody.
Yeah, there was problems at Chernobyl most recently, or something of the sort. Not a lot of information really released on it, but I did see that when the Russians took it over, it looked like there was some sort of problems going on within that reactor, within that site.
Yeah, I mean, it's what Russia wants, the world will not allow him to have. And Russia's got the might to say, well, guess what? I'm going to do it and do something I don't like, and you guys will have to deal with a nuclear fallout. So, yeah, an unwinnable situation for all parties.
Tom, economically speaking, looking at the state of the American economy right now. Stock market over the last, I mean, since 2007, doesn't seem to really slow up at all. Stock market kind of sitting at an all-time high. Talks of inflation, wage growth's kind of going up. What's your opinion, man? What's your viewpoint of the U.S. economy right now?
It's interesting because the economy isn't just like the stock market, right? The stock market is great, but when I think of the economy, I think of it in terms of is it allowing individuals who want to work, who can work, and who have a desire to live out the American dream, is this vehicle of the U.S. economy going to help those individuals get to the destination that they want? And I think within our economy, I think there are avenues in which you can pull yourself up by the bootstraps and be a success. You know, sometimes you may have to work 2 to 3 jobs. Sometimes you may have to make sacrifices from a personal standpoint in terms of where you go out to eat, the type of foods you eat, the type of gifts and accessories that you indulge in. And then in the same sense, I definitely see how corrupt and how convoluted our Congress and our major corporations and how they interact with one another, how dangerous it is to our democracy. Because the amount of insider trading, the amount of bad faith business deals, the amount of times we see the American consumer just get stiffed. And in terms of what our economy is and what our country is, I think we've become an oligarchical, fixed market economy where we bail out who we want to bail out, and we let other industries crumble and perish. And we have the nerve to call it a free market economy when the hand of the government is picking and choosing which industries and which owners they want to make filthy rich.
American consumers getting stiffed. I like that right there, man. You're putting your focus on the right points. Tom, over the last, man, it looks like ever since end of 2015, 2016, things have shifted so far left, or things have shifted so far right, only amplified by social media and media. Man, what's your take on that, man? Why do things seem like they have got polarized in 2 opposite directions?
I think when I think of the polarization in this country, I think of learning about George Washington's farewell address and how he informed the very young democracy, or the constitutional republic that is America, that we have to be mindful of the bad that political parties and detaching yourself to individuals, how much harm that can do. And in terms of whether we've swayed far to the right or far to the left, it's really just in the eye of the beholder, because it's like, okay, in the last 30 years, have we moved more towards the left or more towards the right? Well, let's look at the Supreme Court. Is it more conservative judges on it, or is there more liberal judges? Okay, so maybe in that aspect, we move further to the right. And then it's like, all right, well, if you think of social movements, we've passed the Marriage Equality Act. So did we move further to the left as the country in some aspects? Yeah, maybe. But I think the fact that we're even deciding or talking about have we moved left or have we moved right, I think that's why we're in trouble, is because we're not Americans coming up with ideas and solutions to fix current problems.
Right.
We fearmonger and we hypothesize of what may come down the road and what's the best legislation to prevent anything bad from happening, instead of dealing with the crises at hand. So in terms of whether this country is moving further to the left, further to the right, to be honest, I think we've been pushed into the middle. And I don't think that's necessarily a good place to be. I don't think having a huge contingency of moderates is necessarily effective for adapting and creating legislation that's going to adapt. Because if you have just status quo, keep everything the way that there are, let's not rock the boat, let's not have big, bold ideas, I don't think that's the way that we fix the lead pipe problem in this country. I don't think that's the way that we fix the educational problem in this country. I don't think, just staying with the status quo and not wanting to go too far to the right or too far to the left is going to help us with our disinformation problem. So I think it's good to have a strong, moderate contingency, but I still think that we need to get back to a way of Republicans and Democrats both have great ideas, and they're there to rein each other in, meaning conservatives need liberals and liberals need conservatives. And that's what each, municipality, suburbs, urban, depending on wherever demographic and what socioeconomic background you come from, we need to be able to have the free exchange of ideas from the quote unquote cancel culture. And I just think that now more than ever, we've been pushed into the middle, and we get two bad choices every 4 years to vote for. So then you just get resentment because you're hoping that at some point things will change, and things haven't changed. So I think now we've been pushed to the middle because after the last election, it was like nobody won. Nobody left that election feeling like, yay, America's in a great spot. And that's just a really sad state of affairs for, the American consumer, the American citizen, and the American experiment that we are today.
Tom, what's the fix? If you're looking to fix things, if you're looking for a unifying vision, you're looking for your closing statements, Tom Sullivan's vision, on what he's looking to see, how he overcomes challenges and current state of affairs and current things going on, man. What's your vision for a good unifying fix?
Truth. We have to get back to a place where there's not alternative facts and that there's not two sides to every story. We need to get back to truth and facts and logic-based conversation because, think about it. We have people that think the world is flat. How can we have an honest conversation about anything if we're coming to the table and people are like, hey, well, that's just my opinion. How do you know? And it's like, well, how am I ever going to get into space and be able to show them a photograph? And then when I come back with that photograph or videotape, are they even going to believe it? When we think about all the things that are dividing us, it's like, come on, like, what are we talking about? Like, what are we talking about? If you think about the hot topic issues of the right and the left, it's not going to fix the problems that we have in this country. And I think, the way that we fix it is we have to get back to truth, and we have to get back to understanding that right is right and wrong is wrong. And we got to get out of this gray area. We have to be kinder to each other. We have to listen more than we speak. We have to understand that the outcome of negotiations is not to win, it's to find common ground. We have to get back to a place where civility triumphs over sound bites for media that's used to fundraise for your campaigns. So I just think we just need to speak truth to power. I think to summarize it up, it's just we have to speak truth to power. We have to get back to that.
Well, Tom, I appreciate having you on. It was good having a genuine conversation about business, about politics, about getting good views and good viewpoints out. You are definitely most welcome back on here sometime soon. I'm thinking end of May, end of June would be a great point.
I'd love to come back.
Absolutely. It'd be a great time to continue this conversation and to keep things going. Keep enjoying yourself, keep enjoying your time out on the West Coast. And I'm going to be very careful as I close this out, being this is the first time I've done a virtual podcast. So I want to make sure that everything saves the right way and doesn't get deleted. But again, Thank you very much for coming on.
No, it was a pleasure. Thanks for having me, Bob. We'll talk soon.